Welcome to our discussion today, gentlemen, and thank you for joining us. Our topic is phases of project planning and management. Okay, we're going to jump right in. I'm actually going to direct my first question to Mohammed Al-Jaber, discussing the initiation phase. The initiation phase sets the foundation for the entire project. In your experience, what is the most critical elements to get that phase right?
Thank you, Renee. Thank you, everyone, for being here today. It's a pleasure to be with you. And I will start answering the question. Is it okay like this?
A little bit closer. Closer.
Okay. So the initiation phase, frankly speaking, is all about getting clarity for the project by setting clear objective, clear goals, and clear deliverables among all stakeholders involved in the project, whether it is a designer, contractors, developer, or anyone else. So in the initiation phase, you have to be clear from the beginning. You have to make a risk register to identify any potential risks in the projects, any red flags. You have also to open all communication channels. You have to engage, sometimes you have to engage the contractor from the beginning to understand the scope, to understand all the details. You know, evil lies in details. And another important element is having a solid having a solid feasibility for the project in terms of budget and timeline. So by having all of these elements and take them very well into consideration, you set a concrete foundation for the project to kick off and start. Yeah, this is my suggestion.
Thank you. Those are fabulous touch points to start on. Thank you, Mr. Jaber. My next question is for Iyad Tammas. Welcome.
Thank you so much.
I'm going to touch on the planning phase of the structure. With such large-scale infrastructure projects, how do you manage resource allocation and ensure realistic timelines in the planning?
Thank you so much, Renee, and would like also to thank all the audience here and the organizer of this great event, actually. Actually, as I'm presenting one of leading consultant company here in Middle East, working in Saudi Arabia and working in all major, maybe, regions in the world. We are working, of course, locally, and we are working globally. Just would like to confirm again your question, Rene, that's really the mega and giga projects in Saudi Arabia. There is no other place in the world like here. We are working in Europe, we are working in Asia and in Africa and many countries. I'm supporting your question. That's really, there is no place like Saudi Arabia running such type of giga projects at the moment. Coming back to your question about how to allocate actually the resources and how to align all forces during the planning and initiation stage before going to design stage, the major issue here is to identify actually the work breakdown, flows, and scheduling every time for every single task inside the project itself. We have to define actually the need of the project. We have to understand exactly the target of the project and the vision of these projects. Then we have to divide the projects in a smaller task, which is very well and common in our language as a project management companies and designers as WPS. Taking in this consideration, actually, we have to make the balance between the allocation of the resources, and we have to take the balance also with the risk management for every risk involved in such type of the projects running, starting from the task number one up to ending and closing the project itself. Now, every every workflow actually and every stage in the project should be linked and should be timed with the timeline itself. We should be registering every time the risk and the risk entries actually, and we should be having a clear plan to mitigate any type of risk in any stage itself. Can be also having the right action and early actions against any type of risk that can be involved in any stage itself. One also of very important issue is to have a clear vision and a clear plan how we can propertize actually the elements in the project itself. So we should be having like a core elements actually cannot be touched, cannot be negotiated, and can be like the blueprint of the project, which will be guidance for everyone during the stages of the project. So before going to the design stage, before closing the planning stage, we should be taking such type of balance actually.
Great idea. I'm going to get another perspective on the planning phase. If I can ask you, Abdullah Serhan. Planning is often cited as the phase where projects can make or break. How do you balance comprehensive planning with the need to remain flexible as new variables emerge? And they always do.
Thank you everyone for having me here. Summit is an honor. Actually, the question is two parts. So we're talking about the comprehensive planning first of all, and the next part is the flexibility in terms of that plan. So once you are tailoring the plan and the schedule itself, first of all, you need to be very clear. You need to understand your scope. You need to have a solid baseline. You need to have a scope clear. You need to identify your objectives, your milestones. You need to identify the resources needed and the timelines that you need to stick to. Once you have that in place, you need to establish the deliverables that you are going to deliver. Now we're talking about the comprehensive part of the planning phase. Once we start looking into the flexibility of the schedule itself, various factors need to fall in place. The first thing is you need to identify the risks. You need to establish a risk register and go through these risks by criticality and probability of happening. Once you have that in place, you can run scenarios. So in planning, you have optimistic, pessimistic, and the most likely scenario. So you start running scenarios and simulate the actual situation that is going to happen most likely on the site. And based on these factors, you start into looking about the philosophy that you want to do your baseline following waterfall, which looks like waterfall basically, finish to start relationships, or what Tamimi has did basically previously when they were talking about the MMC, which is the agile or the sprints. So you can run same activities happening in different locations at the same time, and this way you can meet your set forth milestones. Once you establish these, you can have a better clarity on the job. The most important part to accommodate the variables that occurs during the execution phase is to have a change management process in place. It needs to be implemented properly, so you can tackle these changes or variables as they occur. And of course, you need to maintain a certain buffer for each and every activity that might sound critical. For example, you have a long lead item in the supply chain and you are uncertain due to, for example, late shipping because it's coming from overseas. So you keep a buffer for that. All of these findings, this is the most important part, needs to be clarified to the stakeholders, to the client specifically, to manage these expectations. So basically this is how you manage the comprehensive planning with the potential variables that occur during the planning phase, execution phase.
Understood. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. Moving out of the planning phase and a little bit more into the design phase, I might direct this to you, Mr. Iyad. When it comes to the design phase, how do you ensure the original version remains intact while incorporating practical constraints?
Thank you so much. This is really a very valid question. I would like to start here actually from the major point or major starting of this part of the facing the critical and constraints using the projects. That's the first issue, is to have the right understanding of the scope of work exactly. We should be knowing exactly the frame of the scope related to the projects, how we are going to deliver the projects from beginning, and taking in consideration that always there should be like a clear goal on clear vision of the projects at the end that we are going to achieve and we are going to deliver. So from beginning, if we are able to understand the project needs and the project's goals and where we are going to reach at the end, this is very important actually to put the right guidelines and right core elements which cannot be touched. It's like a Bible or Quran. Finally, this is something that can be a blueprint for us to run after if there is any constraints or any deviation during the project's flow actually. Secondly, I would like to mention that the involvement of all stakeholders during the project design itself is really very important. And I would like actually here to enhance that the engagement of the project owners and the project end users is very important from the early stages, because this is also giving us the right understanding and the right tools to approach finally the target for us finally. We should be also getting the inquiries, and we should be getting also the knowledge from the end users who's going to use the project finally and who's going to serve everyone by the project itself. And as much we can in early stages, will be saving the time, saving efforts, and also saving the projects at the end. And this is actually one of the key issues that's missing with some projects here, and where we can find the delay always in the producing the design and producing any type of construction documents that's going usually to contractors. So engaging all stakeholders, parties from early stages is really very important from beginning. And also this will guide me actually to speak about very important tools that we are as a consultant or designer usually we are using, like having the workshop on the right time, like having the regular meetings with everyone, including also the technology provider from beginning also to guide us as a consultant and designer how to deliver the right documents finally, which will be going for bidding and procurement with the contractors. And also utilizing now the new tools like the AI and everything which we are testing at the moment. This can be saving a lot of time, saving a lot of efforts actually with everyone in the market. So all of this type of technologies and tools and materials in our hands is really important now to see exactly how we can run the projects in the right way, how to run the design in the right way. Maybe the last point would like to mention, answering your question and addressing your question, is to use maybe the prototype design which we have delivered for similar projects in our history, in our references. And this is the unique issue when you are dealing with some professional companies, old companies having a lot of similarity in the projects and similarity in many projects similar. So we can do the simulation actually on the new projects to see exactly if this need of the projects finally can be served by the same design which we are going to apply or which we are going to run or not. So using the prototype design, using the simulation at the same time, using the intelligent tools at that time at the same time, and engaging everyone from beginning. This is actually the right action and the right tool at the moment to deliver this and to avoid any constraints in the early project.
I understand. I think that really ties in with what Abdullah said about managing expectations as well, right from the planning phase. And then you have all of those fabulous new AI and all the tools to help you do that support.
Exactly.
Okay, jumping out of the design phase, I'm going to go into the execution phase, and I'm going to direct this question to Mohammed Al-Jaber. The execution phase is where things can get complex quickly. How do you manage the inevitable changes or unforeseen issues that arise once work has started?
Thank you, Irene, again. As the Greek sayings, the only constant is change. So change during project cycle is inevitable and will happen, whether we want or not. We have to be very flexible. We have to adapt to change quickly. We have to predict any red flags. We have to, as we said earlier, make a register for any risks that might impact the entire project. So minor change is acceptable in the project lifetime. but we should not let the change withdraw us to enter the scope creep, and that is the silent killer, by the way, for the project. So we want to avoid this kind of scope creep and having many requests from any stakeholders or from the client. So we have to communicate, we have to make informed decision, we have to address formally any change in the project, we have to document it very well, and we have to keep all stakeholders informed regularly by coordination of meeting and by registering minutes of meeting, and be clear and transparent as much as possible during this stage is a key. So flexibility is number one. We have to be flexible with change.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. We will now jump into monitoring and control phase with Abdullah Serhan, and then I'm going to go to my friend Amir, who I know has some very conflicting questions and ideas for our panel today. So, before Amir, Abdullah, monitoring and control phase. What systems do you rely on for tracking projects' progress, and how do you address discrepancies when performance doesn't align with expectations?
Normally in any construction business and even outside the construction business, the project management tools and softwares that are used are basically Microsoft Project, P6 Primavera. And outside construction, we get to use Jira for IT backend design and architecture, or Asana, which is another software that is used in different industries. But this is only when we are talking about programming. So you have different softwares that you use throughout the project management phase. For communication, you use everyone uses WebEx or Teams or Trello. For document control, you go for Aconex. The only phase or area uncovered in terms of software is the risk management. And normally all of the companies, most of the companies, use Excel sheets and spreadsheets to calculate the probability and the impact of the risks. But these are the tools normally that are used in project management. Now, for the second part of addressing discrepancies, once we have a discrepancy throughout the project monitoring and controlling phase, the first thing that is done is to record that discrepancy and see the root cause for that discrepancy and why it happened. So you carry on a root cause analysis, and once you have the actual reason for having that discrepancy, you move on to the next stage, which is calculating the impact on the schedule and on the execution, and figuring out a mitigation plan or a recovery plan. Sometimes it doesn't work. You go for an extension. Sometimes you have to go for faster tracking or just adapting different methodology in the construction to reduce the time to get back to the set point that you were before having that discrepancy in the first place. So that's pretty much it. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Abdullah. Amir, I would love to invite you to add anything you would like addressing this panel.
Well, you know, I have a lot of respect for all of our technical teams and people who see the project very sequentially. But I have been in meetings in which I've started meetings that this is not possible. And then I sequence the project in a way that it is possible. And then we make it possible. Now, in that the type of projects that are going on in Saudi Arabia right now, we have seen that across the board. In Neom, in Amala, in Riyadh, in Qadiyah, the projects are design build, there is no time for design. There is no time for planning. And if you're not already running, you just cannot do that. So that disrupts all of the conventional ways of handling a project. And this is the type of talk I give during our kickoff meetings, that this is not a design build, it is a design build at the same time project. And we do not first design and then plan and then procure and then do it. We start everything at the same time. While the topography is going on, we start mobilizing. The topography is done, we start the grading plan is done. In a matter of 3 days, we start the grading. The network is yet being done. In the meanwhile, we've already placed orders for the generators because we know 20 megawatt worth of generators need to be bought, so we can easily place orders for 15. The design will follow. And yes, we get very frustrated clients and we get very frustrated consultants talking to us that what are you doing? And the only way we have been able to satisfy them is that we're taking responsibility. I know what I'm doing, and we will take responsibility for whatever change comes in. I'll also take you back to the design specs and the scopes. The type of projects that we're doing are so vast in scope. We're actually building cities. You know, when you're talking about 20,000, 40,000 people, accommodation along with all of the networks and the generator plant and the sewage treatment plant and the water treatment plant, and no design time, right? So when you're doing all of this, you're actually designing a whole city and you don't have time for design. So then what you need to do is you need to know the specs very well. And we assure our clients that we know what we're doing. So if we're choosing a size of pipe for the sewage, we know that we need to keep that safety margin as well, and we go beyond. That is why also in all our designs and our product, that whatever we design, we go beyond the minimums. We go beyond the optimum. Because when you're at optimum, there's always a chance of failure. That's why whenever we talk about the life of the building, contractually, whatever they need, it's 10 years or so, we give that. But practically, we can guarantee our buildings for a lifetime because we know that we have designed it way above the standards. Now that, somebody would argue that that would increase the prices, but we do get projects on equal level bidding. So we know exactly where we can save, and of course then you have to have very smart designing as well. So we design smartly, but we design it as we go on. So the design is going on, the production goes on in the factory, the site works go on in the site, and the design keeps on going. We have projects that we've delivered in 12 months where the design was complete. If you say, you know, just for the design to be complete, it was done in 7 to 8 months. But by 7 to 8 months, we had already delivered half of the project. And when I say deliver, the client always comes to us with the request that they need 3,000 beds ready to be occupied. When you say ready to be occupied, then the electricity is up, the sewage is working, the water supply is there, all the networks, the road is done. So it's not that you can do it in a regular sequential way, you have to do it in a rushed way. So this is the model that we're following, and we've been following it very successfully. So right now, this is, I think, the need of Saudi Arabia on how we're delivering these projects. Also, when they talk about design build, there's another very very interesting thing that we come across. And the client tells us that we need to design it fit for purpose. Now that is such a wide scope that they give us. Then we have to know the scope. You need to know the requirements. You need to know exactly what the client can come up with. Because what his purpose is, words can define it a bit, but then it can span out to so many things. So these are the things that we deal with, and this is how we limit it. So when we go to a project, we disrupt the whole system. We do not design, plan, procure. We start with procurement, we start with site works, and then we're doing the design in the middle, and we get that accepted as well. But you need a lot of experience for that. You need to know what you're doing, and you just cannot be doing it for the first time.
Does that not cause a lot of headaches, doing everything at the same time?
A lot, yes. And that's why you need very good professionals to be dealing with, and a lot of patience as well.
You would definitely have to have a very seasoned team on that type of rollout. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Thoughts, Abdullah?
I wanted to add to what you were saying, that this is the case when we are talking about vertical and horizontal expansion, when you are working in a plot that is only assigned to you. Now, taking into consideration the renovation, as one of the keynote presentations were addressing south of Riyadh, or working in Daraya, or somewhere in Qadiyah, where you are working with different stakeholders, or existing projects that are being renovated. It's not only the case, I totally agree with what you said, 100%, especially when you are doing a design build, it's the contractor's risk. But sometimes you are working in a place where you have to liaise with multiple stakeholders. So maybe there's another contractor assigned for a different scope, and you are going next, or the other way around. So there is a relationship and dependency, and you can't possibly proceed with the procurement in that case, because it will impose a huge risk on your cash flow, and it could be rejected because it's not following the criteria that was followed by the previous contractor. Sometimes you are liaising with governmental entities like MEWA, like Saudi Electricity Company, like telecom companies, like ministries, and in that case you will have dependencies that are out of your hand. Hence what I mentioned previously about identifying the risks and running scenarios where failure might be a case, and you need to correspond that to the client. Adopting the agile, as you mentioned, that it's not traditional. People are used to waterfall, finish to start sequence. But in certain cases, you can go for agile, you can go for sprints, you can work in parallel and fast track your project. You can accommodate new technologies in building. But certain constraints needs to be set in the schedule when you are building. And as you said, you went into a kickoff meeting and you said, that's not applicable, I cannot do that. But maybe the reason is not only the methodology of construction, it could be something outside you as a contractor or a designer hand. So that's the only idea that I wanted to add to Mr. Amir's idea. Yeah.
Perfect, thank you, Abdullah. That is going to take us to my last question, which is the closing phase, which I would address to you, Abdullah, but also please, Iyad, Mr. Jaber, Amir, if anyone has anything to add to the closing phase, please let me know. Abdullah,
Yeah.
what are the common pitfalls in the closing phase, and how can they be avoided?
I was going to touch base on the same thing, yeah. In the closing out, so let's say in the case where Tamimi went in on a job and they execute and took all the risk. The huge risk that is imposed, or the pitfall, is leaving things open, leaving things behind. Unclosed documentation, NCRs, site observations, unaddressed issues with the design, certain clarifications required. You end up at a certain stage in the project where you are only working on documentation. And this is a pitfall that can be seen on a lot of projects. So the most important thing is to start catching up with documentation as soon as you are approaching the mid end of the project. And that should be incorporated in your schedule. And resources needs to be assigned as well. Some of the contractors in the industry will forget about that part of the project. Closing the project is as important as kicking it off. So if you kick off properly, it's not the end of the story. You need to close it properly. If you don't close out properly, you might lose an opportunity. To avoid that, normally when you are working in a certain type of project, it's assigned to a specialized contractor who has been assessed in the pre-qualification phase. And you have the SOPs, standard operation procedures. You know what are the risks associated with this job, and you have previous client feedbacks, and you have all of these lessons learned logs. So from there, you can start anticipating what's coming in the closing phase and avoid that. Ultimately, in the closing phase, the most important thing is receiving a certificate of completion, making sure that the job is done. Because if you don't do that, you will end up with a project that you might perceive as it's completed, but ultimately for the different stakeholders still open. And that's a huge risk imposed on the project. Yes?
Thank you, Abdullah. Yes, Iyad,
Just
thank
I would
you.
like also to confirm what Abdullah told and my colleagues also told about the projects, such project of rush actually naturality here in the kingdom at the moment, which is like a design build and most of now PIF subsidiaries or even in the government. So it's not really easy to catch the deadlines and to catch always the timelines of submittals and to get the projects done on the time. And I feel here the main maybe keys to be achieved is the scheduling issues, is the coordination between all parties and stakeholders and everyone, and also is to how to mitigate the risk during the project cycle. So in case we are knowing exactly what the job responsibilities and what the rules of each party inside the project itself, this will save a lot of time during the execution stage and before closing stage. At the same time, the role of the project management company, which is managing actually the project, managing the planning issue, managing the cash flow during the project itself, managing the payments on time, managing also the suppliers' activities, managing everything. So this is also very crucial actually to keep everything on time and to keep everything also having the highest quality during the delivery and on time again. So it's not easy job, but now we can see a lot of many experts actually in the kingdom who is delivering really the right project on the right time. This is great actually for the future in the kingdom itself.
It's incredible. Amir, Mohammed, please go ahead.
To add on my fellow panelists, Mr. Serhan, Mr. Iyad, once you reach the closing phase, so you did everything. The plans go well, the execution, everything. You have to, as they say, to put the cherry on the cake. So you have to close well. You have to do thorough documentation, as Mr. Serhan said. You have to do a proper handover. I'm speaking from the perspective of a developer, a real estate developer. Maybe you will pass this project to another department inside your company, like the asset management, for example. You don't want your colleagues facing issues in the future, and because you left things open or not attended or not really very well closed. So it is very important stage. We have to pay a lot of attention to it.
Thank you so much, Mr. Jaber.
For us, this is a pain point. And this is a pain point that we direct towards the consultants. I mean, we have never found a consultant that can give us response in time so that we can continue the work in the required speed of the client. So that closeout really becomes an issue. Because of the speed of the project, we can just go ahead and get things done, and the design's still in the review, and the designer is still thinking about it and commenting on it and bringing up those, minor points that, that are easy to close. That's why what we have done actually several times with our clients is to resolve these with workshops instead of sending and receiving designs and all. So we set up workshops right from the beginning up to the mid till the design is done. We keep on pushing just to have everybody on board, on the table, right in the same room. So you make a comment, you discuss it, you finalize it, and you move on. And that is the way that we have been able to get things done in our fast track projects.
Great. Thank you so much, gentlemen.